Good afternoon. So this session is going to be quite challenging, to stay awake after lunch. Afternoon, particularly we are usually taking the afternoon. Now this is going to be a test for us how mindful we can be. Okay, just wanted to start just briefly because we were going to show this in the beginning because of the technical glitches we couldn't close this one up in the beginning. Just to give you a sense that what are our objectives for this 4-day workshop. We of course want to introduce the experiential. There will be a lot of activities. Experiential is still an individual. We want to support educators and whatever way we can find a way to support them so we can begin to explore ways how we can support each other in their journey in this special learning, home relationships, so not just for this 4 days we have together, but to really establish a long-term relationship so we can work together. Because this will take time to run smoothly. And then of course learn from you how vigilant is adapting to your needs and so forth. But also design and implementation plan. How can we go about implementing in schools, either individual schools or school systems? And we have, as I mentioned earlier this morning, the international launch of this program is scheduled for April 5 and 6, 4, 5, and 6, and programs going on the 5th and 6th of April in Delhi, with the and all these great experts in social learning field. So we will spend some time not only to really discuss and identify some teachers who can actually take this to school and work from now until April and work with us online on a regular basis and also participate in the launch with students and teachers themselves and take part in the live demonstration of the C-learning classroom. So we will spend that time, but also throughout this next 3 days, we will need to create opportunities to really discuss, particularly among those who actually come from a similar system of schools, to see how you can support each other and come up with plans to actually do this to your school system. So these are some of the objectives. Now to go back to the framework of C-learning on the secular ethics. The conceptual kind of framework for C-learning is derived from this organized works. As I mentioned, ethics of the new millennium that we work at the turn of this century or millennium, but also beyond religion. This book, ethics for the whole world. These two are really the source literature for us to draw from to create the key concept. But of course, in articulating this concept, Solinus brings his personal experience, what he has learned from scientists and religious people, and people from all walks of life, social scientists, even evolutionary biologists, and so forth and so on. But presents this very cohesive way to bring that into education. So this is from the framework is drawn. Conceptual framework is drawn from Solinus' works, but also augmented with many other works. There are some great psychologists like Januaryb and Richard Davidson and others, but also Lucian Ivanish is one of the greatest of the scientists whose work has contributed to this field tremendously. Is France Dewar. We'll see his work. He's a biologist, works with fragments, an incredible work. And then many others, including Charles Darwin and others. But when it comes to the framework, this is very much also in this community we can appreciate this ancient Indian wisdom of training the mind. This is a very much the Indo-Tibetan or the Indian wisdom that flourished here and was introduced to Tibet and flourished and continues to flourish. And as you know, the Organised of Dalai Lama's fourth major focus now. The number one, promoting basic human rights, sexual ethics, and activities. Number two, religious harmony. Because on this earth there are many religions, and we need to live together harmoniously, and that will require understanding each other. Number three, being the Tibetan leaders, people have entrusted that high, the great hopes in him, so therefore he has the obligation and responsibility to look after the welfare of Tibetan people and his culture and so forth. Number four, just recent years, he has added his major focus, and that is reviving the ancient Indian wisdom, or the ancient Indian psychology, or sometimes he refers to as reviving ancient Nalanda, wisdom, knowledge. And it's kind of nice for us to, it's sort of auspicious to have this workshop here, because in Tibet, the Drepung, the monastic university, Drepung, is referred to as the second Nalanda of Tibet. And there are three major monastic universities, really, that each one of these three offer the highest level of training in this entirety of the Buddhist psychology, teachings and tools, the ways to transform one's life and mind and life and so forth. So the Drepung is one Ganden monastery, which is down the road about 3 miles from here, and Sarah monastery, another major monastery in Bharatpuri. So much of what the conceptual kind of part of in these books and in the Sealand, actually, it is in very much the ancient Indian legacy. So I just want you to be proud of that and cognizant of that. The wisdom that this country has kind of created, and Tibetans preserved, among others, but in Tibet particularly, it's now being recognized by the scientists and the larger world as an indispensable source for all well-being. That's and then, as I said that, Daniel Goleman, is author of Intelligence, Social Intelligence, and that he has written a book also called Focus, the Hidden Driver of Excellence. This is a little bit kind of catering to the mindset that values excellence in achievement. There also, we have to do that sometimes, to present how focus can make you excellent in education, in business, in whatever you are doing also, which is true. He has written a number of books, and as I said, that recently he teamed up with Peter Senge at MIT, and then they created this book called the Triple Focus, Inner Focus, Other Focus, and Outer Focus. In the framework, you will see that all is articulated in the companion book that we are reading. Structure, therefore, comes from Daniel Goleman and Peter Senge. Now, A little bit about Daniel Goleman. Daniel Goleman and Richie Davidson. Richie Davidson is affective, he is referred to himself as affective neuroscientist, meaning that neuroscientist dealing with emotions. He is also credited to creating this new field in neuroscience called contemplative neuroscience, neuroscience of meditation. Not prayers, but neuroscience of actual mental processes to change our lives, the mind and the brain and lives. Two of them, Richard Davidson and Daniel Goleman, they actually have been in this field from their graduate school years at Harvard, way back in the 70s. And they have written a book that came out recently. It's called, I think somebody mentioned and made a reference to that book, Altered Traits. Altered Traits. Incredible book. Altered Traits, it's not just state, but really habits or the deep structure, change in deep structure. In that, they mentioned that how from their graduate years at Harvard, they have been interested and they have paid attention and delved into meditation work. They came to India, they took Vipassana courses, to study the various masters, and then they went back and continued to do this. Because in America, up until quite recently, for the scientists to be dealing with meditation, people would have seen them and kind of, so they are, in some ways, would not have given the due respect as serious scientists. So they remain in the closet. But they came out of the closet recently. This is coming out of the closet is an expression, it means that you're coming out and telling people what you kept kind of secret for many years. But here they talk about how they have been involved. And Daniel Goleman has followed the Dalai Lama for many, many years. In fact, I recently was at a conference in Hong Kong, and one of the speakers was talking about when he kind of, somehow he ended up with this book called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman. And he said that he was reading it, there's not a one word of religion, whatever Buddhism, not a one word of religion, but it's all about this thing that, it's a contemplative traditions, this rich Indian contemplative traditions, but the tradition have been articulating and practicing. And that is true, actually. The genius of Daniel Goleman has been to translate these ancient kind of tools in very much in kind of line with psychology, science. And but now they are openly, expressing that how they have been working on this whole life, and now finally time is kind of right for them to say that this is what they have been doing. So I think for us, those of us who come from this Indo-Tibetan tradition, that we have much to be proud of, with our heritage. Of course, as I mentioned, that the framework is drawn from those words. Initially, actually, in 2015, we created very quickly our first draft of what we call the social emotional, the sacred ethics in education, and initially for educating the heart and mind. And with submitted to His Holiness, and then His Holiness was very appreciative of that, asked us to now share with other experts, and then think about how to disseminate. So we reached out to these great scholars. If you think about one person who really knows His Holiness is thinking, but I would say it is Shiba. He has been his English translator for many years. The PhD from Cambridge, so well versed in both sciences and fearless, unparalleled scholar in Buddhist philosophy and psychology as well. So we reached out to him. Linda Januaryb is in the social emotional learning field. She is the goddess, if you think about it. So it's and then Mark, the Rob, Linda, the Kimberly, she's a scientist. Basically, she's American but lives in Canada, has been working for 30 years there at the University of British Columbia. In the social emotional learning field, she is the authority as when it comes to research. And it's her research that people cite and base. So all of them are our advisors. Mark Drepung is the one who created the program called Mindfulness in Education. It's quite a large, widely disseminated program. Sophie is Jimba's wife, and Tara Turkey. Two of them work together in Quebec province of Canada with the social emotional learning program. And then we have Elaine Miller. She is her work will blow your mind. We will see that it's a trauma-informed program. Particularly those of you who have been working with a very traumatized population, they will see that how wonderful this program is. And our second chapter is straight from her work. That is actually her that building resilience. So these are the people that we have consulted and continue to consult. Actually, that every lesson plan or the learning experience that is being developed with a team of people was finally through her kind of editing, Linda. So whatever is here, it has the highest degree of scrutiny and the endorsement, if you will. According to Daniel Goleman, how come we don't have Daniel Goleman? Anyway, Daniel Goleman, according to Daniel Goleman, when he saw our framework, he said that this is SEL 2.0. 2.0 meaning the next level of SEL. And then Linda, it's not in writing, but in our conversation, she has commented that this curriculum, actually we can say this as SEL 4.0, not just 2 or 3, 4.0. So that kind of gives us a lot of confidence, thanks to the people like Krista and others, my colleague Brandon and a number of others. But this is a really good work. The framework, our Buddhist scholars will very much resonate with. They will exactly know what this is about from their own training. But just to kind of give the terms that is consistent with the writings of Daniel Goleman and others, and is consistent with the current social emotional field. Framework is designed with these 3 domains, what we call the personal, social, and systemic domain. Now, the triple focus, where you see the three circles, triple focus. Triple focus is inner focus, other focus, and outer focus. In that sense, personal is inner, that's self. Personal focus, inner focus. Social is here more to do with interpersonal, not that kind of large society interpersonal. And then the systemic part deals with the more communal, the societal, and global level concerns. Now, these 3 domains, what I refer to domains, being aware of one's own inner life, self-awareness, aware of emotions and so forth, can allow us to regulate, manage our emotions. Other focus that leads to awareness of others' emotional life and situation that leads to empathy and compassion and like that. And the outer focus has to do with very much like the wisdom, like it has to do with the understanding of kind of the systems perspective, so that there is an understanding how events, when it comes, you have to make certain decisions, you have like a fuller and bigger context and picture of the event, so you can make the decisions properly. Now, of course, in each of these three domains, there are dimensions, that very crucial inner tools or skills or processes that we can cultivate, and those have to do with awareness, because there is no awareness, we're lost, right? So whether it's inner, other, or systems. But awareness alone is not enough. You can have, understanding intellectually. It has to kind of lead to, if it is conjoined with compassion, what is the compassion with oneself, the compassion of others, this, and awareness can lead to compassion. When you have a certain perspective, that can lead to compassion. Now, awareness and compassion combined can then inform our action, behavior, engagement. How do we engage? So this is basically what it is touching, and with the wisdom and compassion, or awareness and compassion, inform our action, or behavior, or the engagement. So that's what it has 9 components. Through the next few days, we will be going through this. And these components not to be thought of as very linear, actually, because as you will see right from the very first kind of learning, first chapter, you will see it actually has many entry points, all the way from the systems. Actually, comment that Jan was sharing the work that they are doing. It's that they are taking this, that's right in the beginning, kind of compassionate community, appreciating compassion to come building compassionate community. It's bringing the systems perspective. So you should think of this as it has to be kind of linear, but for our purpose, just to get a sense of what it is, we need to organize it in some way. So that's how it is done. So you can see on the personal level, attention and self-awareness, that inner focus of being aware is important. That can then lead to self-compassion. For our Buddhist colleagues, self-compassion has seemed somewhat kind of an oxymoron, the word self-compassion. But it's really what it means is that if you think of either mind training literature, what is called the so how you it's about transforming adversities into allies, or how the kind of embracing, accepting our vulnerabilities and imperfections and the limitations and like that. That's what it means. That's where the self-compassion becomes important. And this kind of with awareness and having this requires actually the looking from a broader perspective, of course. And then you can develop the train to more kind of self-regulate. So that's where the actual training of the mindfulness, attention, and so forth will come. And this is what he calls inner focus or emotional intelligence. This field, when personal domain, is very much about understanding, being aware of our emotions, and regulating. When it comes to social part, social interpersonal, but of course we need to have awareness of interpersonal, and that when we are able or in a position to be attuned to others' life situations, or have the perspective taking and so forth, also build a certain kind of a connection. Then there comes that empathy and compassion, but also the empathy and compassion can be cultivated by adopting certain perspectives also. So there's a whole kind of steps for cultivating compassion that can be done, and then those lead to kind of the skillful activities, relationship skills. How do we, informed by this, how do we interact with others when somebody is bullying others or yourself, or somebody is engaged in certain activities or struggling how to respond to that. And then the systemic part has to do this third domain, on the larger scale. When you think of part of that really is this appreciating interdependence, because that when we need to think what it is, it's not just object like that, the processes and everything that they think of. They're not fixed, frozen, just isolated event, and we need to understand from a broader perspective. And then when that happens, we can apply that to actually to a much larger kind of global levels, like how we are interconnected, our social reality, and that kind of thing that leads to the concern of not just oneself or another, not just a family member or input, but other. Eventually can be a whole community, and this is it's actually quite amazing how scientists like Charles Darwin actually also thought of recognition and is what he calls sympathy. It's the same, they're using different words. They thought that it can be expected to include all sentient beings. He used the term sentient beings, very, very similar actually. And then, the truth is that you can have you can engage on the various social issues, that whether it's global warming or poverty or helping business and so forth. You can tackle these larger issues. So that's what, and then over there when it comes to in terms of the intelligence that can be systems intelligence or the ethical intelligence in some ways. So this is framework just briefly. We don't want to kind of bore you because so far it has been just so lecture-based. We want to be done away with that. So now let me ask my colleague to talk a little bit about in sea learning. How important we consider the role of the teacher and what that means.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Is this on? Yes? Okay. So I want to discuss a little bit about the role of the teacher. So I'm going to be reviewing some information about the role of the teacher. I want to just let you know that there's more information on these three topics in your companion on pages 105 to probably 116. Okay, so just so you know where to go to reference this information, there is something called the implementation guide in this book here, and that's where the rest of this material is. So I want to just talk briefly about teacher self-cultivation. So one of the things that we want to make sure that we're doing in sea learning or any kind of learning that involves education of the heart as well as the head is that we as educators are developing our own skills, right? Because so many times I'm asked to come to a school and they'll say, our 11-year-olds are fighting and they're having all these problems, would you come and do a program with them? And I said, yes, I will come to a program with one condition. I must also work with your staff, because the staff are the ones who are modeling positive conflict resolution and are modeling respect and are modeling emotional self-control, right? And through that modeling is really how students will learn so many of these things that we want them to learn. We have explicit instruction built into our program, but if you just do explicit instruction without the modeling of the behaviors, we know that that will not give us very good results at all, because children will learn more by what you do than by what you say. That's right. That's right. So first we need to attend to ourselves, and actually this sort of mirrors that personal domain, right? So attending to ourselves to build our own skills. And some of us are, more comfortable with some of these skills than others, and it's no problem. I also have educators coming to me saying, I'm not good at attention, or I lose my temper sometimes, or these various things. And I said, no problem. As long as you have a sincere commitment to learn better and do better, then you are on the journey. You're on the path somewhere with all of us, right? And it's okay that we're learning together. And it's okay that a teacher is learning together with his or her students. There is no end to social, emotional, and ethical learning journey. So we can't wait until we get to some imaginary finish line where we feel like we're now ready, right? So the idea is that we have this commitment to cultivate these skills within ourselves: compassion, awareness, engagement. And that means getting to know ourselves a little bit better and taking time for our own self-reflection and time to engage in these practices, which we'll then be working with our students on as well. So this is our first invitation to educators when we invite them into C-Learning, is to say, come join us in this practice of developing yourself. The second point here is about our pedagogical orientation. And I heard somebody mention this during introductions this morning, that they are student-centered, right? So in C-Learning, we also promote a student-centered approach. And what do we mean by student-centered? We mean that above all things, we have our students' needs in mind first. I, as a teacher, I have my own needs. I want to cover the material, I want to make sure my students are behaving and they're learning and things are going smoothly. And those are my own needs that I have, of course, related to my students' needs. But I don't want to put those above my students' needs, because we're there for the students. That's why we're there. So in this orientation, we really remind ourselves that we are here to meet the social, emotional, and ethical needs of our students, and to keep that in mind first. Another part of our pedagogical orientation is that we integrate critical thinking, and there's another slide about that, so I'm going to go back to that another time, but we'll talk more about what we mean by critical thinking as an aspect of this program. Okay, I think that's good for now, for that part. And then I want to talk about creating a caring classroom, which is related to our pedagogical orientation, of course. So creating a caring classroom is the responsibility that we have as educators to welcome everyone into the space that we have, respect diversity, whatever differences exist among our students in our classroom, right? And be able to treat our students equally and compassionately. This means that we would take a positive approach to any problems that might arise. So I always say, every problem is an opportunity for more learning, and every problem is an opportunity to use all of your C-Learning skills. If you have a student that is find very frustrating, that's your opportunity to practice patience and forgiveness. What a wonderful opportunity that student is providing for you. So we want to present, a caring classroom, but we can't do it ourselves. So we actually invite students into that process with us. And at the end of the day today, we're going to be doing an exercise that invites this group into that process. Together, we'll be creating some group agreements together about how we would like to be, how we would like to treat one another. What kinds of agreements can we make that will help us create a classroom where everyone feels safe and cared about, and they belong and they're respected. And this connects very closely to the trauma-informed approach that we've integrated into C-Learning, because what we know is when students feel frightened, or when they feel anxious, or when they've experienced some kind of hardships and trauma that's very present for them, their body is very agitated, as well as their mind and emotions. And creating a caring environment is one of the most important things that we can do for them and provide for them to help them get into a place where they're actually able to learn and to build positive relationships. So forming these positive relationships between students is important to create a caring classroom, and also we need a caring classroom to create the positive relationships. So it has this interconnectedness component in there as well. I realize that there's a lot of different kinds of discipline strategies across cultures, and that varies quite a lot. In C-Learning, of course, we want to be respectful of those differences, and we also suggest that people take an approach that supports students and does not shame them in any way. So you'll see in a lot of our learning experiences and the things that we have in the scripts that we have written out for teachers, they're not judgmental or scolding in any way, because we believe that that can shut children down and then maybe make a break in the relationship that you're developing with them. And as we know, you need to build a positive relationship to reach your students. So one of the things that we suggest is that since C-learning is about awareness and compassion, that we use awareness and compassion in all of the ways that we interact in the classroom with our students, from our own self-cultivation, our pedagogical orientation, and then creating that safety in the classroom.
Any questions so far?
No?
If you don't mind, then we just go quickly and then we do the activity.
Sure, absolutely.
Let's do that then. So, as I was mentioning earlier, the framework the structure is drawn from this model, inner, other, and outer focus, right? And as I mentioned, that it is our C-learning framework is very much aligned with social emotional learning field. Social emotional learning field, many of you, I'm sure you are very well aware of it. This is a movement. It has been growing into a movement for the last about 30 years now. And there is quite a bit of research on that, also its effectiveness. In fact, one of the meta-analysis, meaning many research kind of projects done with social emotional learning field, when they meta-analysis is true, when they analyze all those different studies, they found that in schools where they had social emotional learning program compared to where they did not have, there were 10% less bullying and antisocial behaviors among children. 10% higher pro-social behaviors, more helpful and other behavior. Not only that, 11% better academic achievement. So, social emotional skills help learning, better learning, and we will talk about that. But it's what is there in social emotional learning. Social emotional learning is a framework, again, based on that there are many different curricula. There are 5 major components to that so far. Number one number one is self-awareness, that is inner focus, aware of one's own emotions and thoughts, reactions, impulses, and so forth. Number 2 is self-management, managing our emotions. So that kind of goes into the inner focus part. As for the other focus part, there are 2 skills, that is the empathy, that has to do with being aware of other situations, and the relationship skills, and how do you interact with others, meaningfully skills, something like that. Those 2. And then as for the outer focus part, they have what they call responsible decision making, or the right decision, making the right decision. It's a framework, and then it has many, over several dozen curricula. Actually, Krista is an expert in many of those, that she has been training people in those, so she can share much more than I can. But Daniel Goleman, who was the kind of the pioneer in social emotional learning field, when they wrote that book, Triple Focus, there, Daniel Goleman and Peter Senge point out that in the social emotional learning movement, there need to be major additions made. One, they said the next step in social emotional field is attention training. Attention training is you can learn about the skills, but unless you have developed that awareness, in the spur of the moment, if you're not aware of that, how are you going to manage it? So attention training is very much missing in many of the social emotional learning fields. So it sees that this is an important part. Another important part that's missing in social emotional, most social emotional learning curriculum is care and compassion. Okay. So he says that most social emotional learning curriculum now don't have that, care and compassion, and he says that this would be a next measure of integration, addition to social emotional care and compassion. And he says that in fact, compassion in education must be the state of the art in education. So you see that how the compassion becomes such an intent of the overarching, the foundation for our human skills, human dimensions. So those are missing, and then of course the systems learning, system approach that is made social emotional learning. Most curricula don't have that focus. So that is what the C learning is bringing all those missing pieces. As you saw in those 9 components, there was the attention training and self-awareness. That compassion is a major part. That in fact, the C learning, if you take the essence of C learning, it's really the cultivating compassion. Ethics-based programming and compassion. And then the system learning, the interdependence is a major part. So ethics becomes an important part. Not as top-down, like taught, you do this or don't do this, but rather developing dispositions, habit and inner dispositions, which allow you to act responsibly. So that's those are the things. Obviously, whether we learn as adults or as the teachers, we have to be learners as well. I was sharing that in our framework, we mentioned that in the companion, there is a whole guide for the implementation. So the educators need to be in this, like this, more as guides on the side instead of a sage on the stage. It's sage on the stage can come elegant, this sage on the stage, and then let's give few words to inspire. But this kind of pedagogy model is about facilitating. You are a guide, not just leading. But for that, we need to have various kind of processes to do that. So the critical thinking, as Krista was mentioning earlier, the teacher's role, the critical thinking is a measure part, because that's why the systems learning has to involve critical thinking. And so, the critical scientific perspective, as I mentioned earlier in the morning, this is very much aligned with what we are learning from psychology and evolutionary biology and the neuroscience and so forth. So there's fair amount of kind of the research that is presenting our human condition. That was some of the key kind of inner capacities and the skills that are really needed for us to thrive. And the reflective practices, and we will talk about, it's a very much engaged kind of learning. So as I said, there are various ways to kind of engage, to encourage engaged learning. Pedagogical model is, again, the monastics, they understand this model very well. This is based on this kind of 3 levels of learning or awareness, understanding, or wisdom, you can call. So, for this to happen, really, first of all, you need to have this kind of support the teachers. If the teachers need to embody that, right? If the teachers cannot embody it, students will not really learn. So the teachers need to. That means that teachers need to have self-cultivation. And that's why this teacher cultivation is very important. But when the teachers, then as a teachers, we can work with the students. I must must confess that I don't have experience teaching K through 12. But I teach in university courses, college, graduate, and I've taught psychology for a number of years at college level. So the teacher's role is, of course, to facilitate that first level of understanding, that's the received knowledge, content knowledge, which is important from the best practices, best information you have, you can present it. But that's only kind of the first step. The really, to make a difference, you have to have this critical insight, which is a personal insight. It's a way you come to this aha moment. You need these tools. Critical thinking is very important. Engagement is like doing what you learn. And then so those are the kind of important parts. And then this aha moment, personal insight, if you will, that it's not just kind of the external book knowledge, but rather it's understanding that has become a personal awareness. That needs to be deepened, infused with our mind of understanding, to the extent that it becomes our habit, second nature, embodied learning, embodied understanding. And that's, if that happens, then you can see that, if these skills are embodied, then we will act, accordingly, right? So that's the ethical engagement part. So that's the pedagogical model. We try to kind of infuse that and then encourage our still learning chapters and the still learning experiences are designed ideally to kind of follow this model. Just do constant check-in, like Krista was earlier asking us to just constantly check in, how you're feeling and so forth and so on. You give some direct instructions, that's for the received knowledge, and then we have this insight activities for the critical activities that we will do that right now. And then for that critical insights, you can really embody it, you need to have reflective practices. And we will do that as well. And then there's some debriefing and discussions. That's the kind of the general model here. Now, we're going to do the activities. Krista, would you like to explain this?
Sure.
So you, yes, let's do that along the street.
Okay. So we just had a received knowledge portion of a lesson because you were listening and you got some information specifically around the pedagogical model and how it processes through these different steps. So that's been done. So now we're going to actually ask you to engage in a practice to bring you a little bit deeper. So the next step. So here what we'd like you to do is think of a time when you had an aha moment. Does everyone understand the phrase? Aha. Yes. So an aha moment about something, and you understood something on a personal level that you had only previously understood on a conceptual level. Maybe it was something recent that you're learning, maybe it was when you were younger learning something. So again, this is an aha moment. You moved from conceptual to knowing something more personally. Okay? So I'm going to ask you to do that one first. We're going to give you a few minutes to actually just write down some thinking about that. Okay? So maybe 2 or 3 minutes we'll give you to do that.
Is it clear to everyone?
Is it important?
Pardon me?
Is it important?
The what we are asking you is to reflect, think about, has there been ever a moment when something that was explained to you previously, you understood very conceptually, intellectually. It wasn't really something that you understood deeply. And then at some point, it clicked that way, this aha, this is how it is. When it became your personal awareness. Has there been any such moment in relation to whatever you have learned? Please think about that. How many minutes are we going to give?
Well, I see people's wheels turning in their mind, so we'll give you a few minutes to think of something, and then if
Something to do with what we have learned today, or what
No, everything. Your
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will give you. I shouldn't give actually. Yeah. Let's do it after.
Yeah.
In life, you have learned many things, right? And many things, whether environment or anything. So we learned kind of from the books of people, the Drepung, that people have taught us. But at some point, it became your personal knowledge that you understood. You know that this is how it is. That's the aha moment. Like that. And in Tibetan, we get the samchungi, Shela samchungi. So, or you can just even think maybe that not assumption or the wisdom arising from reflection in a very kind of narrow sense. Just said that we can also go up, like where it really made sense to you. Maybe because you heard about, but then it made perfect sense. That's the aha moment. Has there been anything? For the debaters, there have been many such moments, like the concept of impermanence, of impartiality, all the emptiness of selfness, the interdependence, and all this kind. But has there been anything that you have studied, but it made eventually clicked and it made sense to you? Just think about that for a moment, and then we want you to journal it.
Jot down some ideas.
And then we want you to share that with others. That's the mindful kind of listening and dialogue. So, how many minutes?
We'll give you 4 minutes.
Yeah?
Yes.
4 minutes enough?
Yes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay, good. Negotiation. 5 minutes.
And we really want you to, this is something that, because you are going to be, in order for you to bring that to your classroom, the students, you want to go through that process yourself. So we'll give you 5 minutes and think about and write it down, and so that you can share that with your partner. Take it on.
I have a part 2 for you to consider now. The part 2 is for you to consider what led to that aha moment. What helped facilitate that experience? What led to the aha moment? You can think about that and write about it for another 3 or 4 minutes. So you had an insight. What causes or conditions helped bring you to that insight?
Clear? Yeah, you have to think of what led you to that aha moment. What you're really through discussions, or there's some kind of research that you've done, or that you really thought
Personal
about.
experience.
What led to that book knowledge, to your personal insight or aha moment? So please give some thought about that. If you can remember, if you can kind of reconstruct.
I'll give you 4 more minutes.
I think it's good enough.
Okay.
So do we want to have 2s or 3s?
You want to do 3s instead? Okay. Okay, we'll ask you to finish up your thought that you're working on there. It's totally okay if this was a little bit challenging. Did anyone find it to be a little bit challenging? Great. That's how we stretch ourselves. So no problem. And now we're going to be inviting you to have another listening experience based on this thinking that you just did. So we gave you some time to reflect, and now you're going to be listening. And this time we're going to be doing it in groups of 3 instead of pairs. So wait a moment while I tell you how we're going to do the activity, and then you can get into groups of 3, okay? So we're going to be doing a practice called mindful dialogues. And this is a particular kind of listening. And in this kind of listening, we're going to give our whole attention to the person who's speaking. Okay, so how do we do that? How do you give your whole attention to someone? Your mind has to be engaged, right? Focused on them. And then oftentimes also we might turn towards the person, right? And really be present for them, show them that we're listening. You also want to be listening with your heart as well as your head. Okay, so open heart. And we listen closely without speaking or interrupting. So in this kind of dialogue, we're doing the listening and the sharing separately. Okay? So you're not going to be giving your own story when someone else is sharing theirs. You're not going to be saying, oh, I had the same experience, the same aha moment. That's no, we're not going to do that, okay? You're just going to listen, and even no questions. You're just going to remain as open as you can and listen without speaking at all. All right? And at the end, you just thank the person for sharing with you. And that is the listening session. And then, of course, the next person will get to share, and the other two individuals will get to be the listeners. Okay? So this is a particular process that we use called mindful dialogues. And we did the free writing already. And then pairing up, or in this case, we're doing threes. And of course, you're going to need to decide once you get together who will go first. So hopefully that will be simple and no arguments. And second and third. If you have younger children, of course, this might be an issue, but I think we're okay with this group. We got that covered. And we're going to actually give you more than 90 seconds to share. We're going to give you about 3 minutes a person to share. Yeah? I think we have time. All right. 2 minutes. This is good. Well, more of this will be happening, don't worry. Okay, 2 minutes. So 2 minutes for each person. You'll hear the bell. 2 minutes means everyone thanked the person for speaking. You move on to the next person. They will have 2 minutes.
Actually, if you like to do
No?
let's stick to that. If we like to
2.5?
2-3 minutes, then
Yeah.
instead of 3 people, we can just have 2.
Mm-hmm.
It will take only 4 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, it's nice to hear from
Yeah,
two more
beautiful,
people.
yeah.
So we'll do it with 3, but with 2 minutes. I'll give you a little extra time. And then we will have a little discussion about that. Okay? So your job now is to get into groups of how many? 3. Perfect. And
So 3, share what was that aha moment.
yeah.
How did you arrive? What led to that? Let's
Do that. Yeah.
form a group of 3.
Yes. And when you hear the bell, it's time to get started. So go ahead and form your group.
There are also free tables if they want to move around.
Oh, thank you. Or remind them next time. So please thank the person who is speaking, and you will move on to the next person.
Now, let's do a debrief. So, if you could share, if anyone like to share either what you heard from the other person or what you shared with others. What particular aha moment you shared, what led to that, and what was this experience doing with each other. But you can also, if you like to comment on whether you see this kind of activity, you can bring it to your classroom. Do you foresee using this? What challenges you might anticipate? You can also share that. So please, whoever wants to share, just raise your hand and raise up.
Project my voice. I'm going to answer the second part of your question, which was actually to reflect on the process of the mindful dialogue. What I found was the fact that the listening, the opportunity of listening with complete and full attention actually provided an opportunity for me to not judge. And I think coming from a position of not judging was a very, very expansive experience, because a lot of the times when one is listening, there's always these various labels and layers what is providing. So I found that was a great understanding, as well as the fact that the distance that is typically created when one becomes the listener and someone else is the speaker. I found that because of the fact there was this no judgment and one was completely immersed in it, that boundary was kind of blurred, and I found that experience to actually just only listen for the sake of listening very, very fulfilling. And I think that this particular tool is a very, very could be a very useful one if used effectively.
Thank you. That's very true.
Thank you.
Yes.
Actually, we shared in our group, but I feel that if I share my aha moment, so there are many teachers, I think that would be useful for them. That's why I'm just standing here to share my aha moment. Not because that's a very different one or something very good, but because I felt that it would be helpful for the teachers. So we often read from books and we listen to the resource persons or in workshops, a lot of things that about corporal punishment not to be used at school. So in order to be more thoughtful about students and all, but sometimes as a teacher it's quite challenging when you have some problem, how to deal with it. So I have been trying, because at the beginning of my career as a teacher, I have used corporal punishment. Now I can proudly say that for so many years I have been able to my students. So it's like I have read, I have listened, and His Holiness also keeps on telling it's century of dialogue. It's very helpful when you talk and speak. So sometimes, like in class also, it happens when a student has some sort of disagreements, they have quarrel. So we as a teacher or an elder, we immediately start judging. It's your fault, you have to say sorry. And the other person, whoever has done the mistake, is punished. So this is how we have been growing up. Like we have grown up in that state. And then what happens is that the child who is forced to say sorry has that feeling in his heart. And though he says sorry in front of the teacher, but he's actually not feeling sorry. Because he was forced. He didn't realize his mistake. So what I have been trying is, in order to avoid using corporal punishment, and because we read that sometimes in the heat of the moment you act in a way that you shouldn't have. So we need to give time to ourselves that we forget. But as a teacher in the class, I try, not just in the class, now being the school head. So there are issues that come to me, the students having some quarrel and how to deal with that. Some might expect a sort of punishment, which I don't give. So my way of dealing with this is making the students relax. Because at first, when the issue is brought up, it's kind of like blame game. You start blaming each other. He did that, and so I had to do this. So not just being on the side of one of the students, I just make both of them sit down and then think of the whole thing, how it happened, how the quarrel began. So giving time to reflect on what happened. And what happens is that then the realization dawns on you. You start thinking about the whole thing, the whole process, what made you do that. And then finally, just ignore the students, let them just think. Don't talk to each other. And then what happens after some time, you then ask. You listen to each of the students one by one. And then it's like the teacher or the school head is valuing your opinion, your feeling. And then the child tells you the truth. They don't lie because there's no fear. So they tell you the truth, and then what happens is it's easier for the other person. You don't need to tell the other person to say sorry, because the other person realizes that it's his or her mistake, and so they say sorry. And I have come across some situations where the child deliberately, literally cries feeling sorry because he realizes. So I don't have to feel afraid of the child bullying the other child after the office, outside the office, because of you I was scolded on that. So these things happen, and then it was like once as a teacher, this happened in class. And so I have from then onwards, I have been trying this. And that thing when this thing happened in the class, that was my aha moment. And I realized that. And the second question was like, what led me come to that aha moment? My attempt to do away with corporal punishment, trying to pay due respect to the students' feelings and thoughts. And in my attempt to do that, giving them space to think and reflect, and this is where my aha moment came. And that's why I wanted to share it here, so that the teachers, they can actually apply this in their classrooms.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. That's really wonderful.
So, it's tea time. Should we take a break for tea? Yes. Let's take a tea break then.